Good evening, folks. This is your ticker guy, Carl, with a late night update on the 25th. It's almost the 26th. Oh, I feel like I'm doing something dirty making videos in the middle of the night. Listen, but I got to. Let's talk about the news that came out late this evening after I got to record my other video and put it up there. And this goes along with a special ticker, too. Bloomberg this evening reported a speech by Dallas Fed President Fisher. I'm going to read you just a couple of quotes here. This is from the original story that ran on Bloomberg. Dallas Federal Reserve Bank President Richard Fisher said the proposed $700 billion rescue of financial institutions backed by Fed Chairman Bernanke would plunge the U.S. government deeper into a fiscal abyss. The plan by Treasury Secretary Paulson to buy troubled assets from financial institutions would put one more straw on the back of the frightfully encumbered camel that is the federal government ledger. Fisher said today in the text of a speech in New York, "We are deeply submerged in a vast financial chasm." Shortly thereafter, that story was updated, and a number of key words were changed. A few things were invented too, including the statement that, well, let me just read it to you. Dallas Federal Reserve Bank President Richard Fisher said the U.S. Treasury's proposed $700 billion rescue of financial institutions would be a critical first step towards calming markets while adding to the U.S. government's fiscal burden. Ladies and gentlemen, that second statement was never made. The text of Mr. Fisher's speech is on the Dallas Fed's webpage. I pulled it up. I ran a search for critical first step, did not find it. I ran a search for critical, not there. Then I read the whole thing, and really you ought to too, because that speech lays out in stark relief another angle on the argument that Mr. Fisher has run for a long time, which is that we have $53 trillion in change worth of unfunded liabilities in Social Security and Medicare, and our government now wants to spend $700 billion more on a rescue that isn't going to work. There was apparently a meeting at the White House this evening as well with Henry Paulson, Ben Bernanke, Democrats and Republicans. John McCain showed up and pretty much threw the existing $700 billion plan under the bus and then backed over it a few times. Just like Fed President Fisher backed over Ben Bernanke's head with the bus after he ran him over, we now have bankers and Congress people eating their own. It's not a surprise, folks. This $700 billion plan is the most ill-conceived, ill-advised thing that I've seen come out of Congress in the last 20 years. It is maybe rivaled only by Medicare Part D, and then only slightly. But here is the thing that I find most amusing. Where's been the discussion of real alternatives? Finally, the Republicans, John Bonner, came up with one this afternoon. Essentially a private mortgage insurance plan backed by the Treasury, but with private mortgage insurance being essentially purchased by the banks that want to have this coverage. It's not a bad idea. Isn't going to fix the root cause of the problem. We've been over this more times than I can count. Pretty much every video. I'm going to say it one more time just for grins and giggles. Number one, full balance sheet transparency. No more BS games. Number two, all derivatives go onto a regulated exchange with a counterparty in center. And number three, all leverage comes back 12 to 1 or less. It's a very simple plan. Doesn't take a lot to explain. It's not difficult for everyone to get. In fact, it's very easy for everyone to understand. Simplest of all. Then, once we have done those three things, we go through and we cram down, through forced reorganization, any firm which, in the opinion of the auditors, will not make it, past the next 6 to 12 months. We do a forcible conversion. The equity is wiped out. The bondholders serve as a cushion. Their debt is converted to the new equity. The firm opens the next morning. Everything appears normal. The only difference is we have another letter after the stock symbol, or we change the stock symbol to show that the stock has been canceled and reissued. The existing bondholders take some kind of a haircut. There are no bonds after that, which means that the new firm, completely unencumbered, having been forced through restructuring, is free to go out and issue some more debt. Since it has a clean balance sheet, it ought to be pretty easy to do. We can do this with banks, we can do this with brokers, we can do this with insurance companies, we can do this with literally any financially related firm that's in trouble. It'll work. We cage the CDS monster, that problem goes away too. Something else to think about. I was talking about the slosh being intentionally drained the other day. Tonight we find out Washington Mutual has been assumed with OTS and FDIC intervention by JP Morgan. No big surprise. Washington Mutual has been sick for a long time. In fact, Washington Mutual was the bank that started it all for me. First quarter of 2007, when I discovered that they were paying their dividends out of capitalized interest, money they didn't have. The OTS and the FDIC should have stepped in and seized that bank the next morning. And they're finally doing their job a year and a half later. All of these banks need to be checked for this kind of a problem, and if they find it, they all need to be taken over. They need to be crammed down and either forcibly merged or put through receivership, have the debt converted to equity, have the equity wiped out, they're recapitalized, all the long-term debt is gone, and they can go back out and reissue. Nice solution to the problem. Yeah, it waxes shareholders. Shareholders are going to die anyway if they end up going out of business, so what's the difference? Best part of that plan is it doesn't spend one penny of taxpayer money. But we get the regulations on the books and we stop the games. Folks, we have to make a critical decision here. This battle's not over. You need to get on the phone to Congress again, on the fax to Congress again, and you need to tell them, no taxpayer handouts. It's not necessary. And furthermore, even though the market today, up until the point that it closed, had anticipated a bailout, the credit market hadn't unlocked. Oh yeah, the stock market was up big. Stock market's not what counts, guys. It's the credit markets. I will say it again. If anyone in Congress is listening to this video, if any of you are watching it off the ticker, any at all, or if you're seeing it on Fed Up USA's site, you want me on an airplane to come and testify? I'll do it. Put my hand up on the Bible. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I want only one thing. I want our republic to thrive, I want it to prosper, and I want this problem gone. It can only happen one way. Dallas Fed President Mr. Fisher agrees with me as to the root cause of these problems in his speech. Take a look at the ticker. It's right there. Pick up the phone again and call Congress. Tell them, no taxpayer money. We're going to need it, folks, for the economic issues that are in front of us. Those we cannot avoid. Don't fall victim to this.